Hello, everyone, and welcome to Humanist Reacts. So, there's a Ren song that I've been asked specifically to react to because I'm a humanist and an atheist. Um, People are interested to see what my take on it is. So, I'm finally getting around to that one. We're gonna do that today. This is Ren Eden. Um, I don't know anything about the song, except that I assume it deals with, I mean, based on the title and based on the fact that people have asked me in particular to react to it, um, I'm assuming that it deals with religion in one way or another. So, anyway, it's enough time. Let's get into it.
Let me tell you a story as old as time, the story of Adam and Eve. It starts with a God who wanted more. God had just created the heavens and the earth. He had the angels by his side, but they had no will of their own, and so the autonomy to love or reject him was never theirs. All but for one, the once called bringer of light, Lucifer, morning star.
So, the fun thing about this story that he's telling right now is that depending on which Bible you read, this isn't in it. Like, this is all lore that came much later. Like, a lot of this is from Milton's Paradise Lost, which was biblical fan fiction, um, essentially. But, the whole war in heaven, Satan being cast down, all of that stuff. There are a couple of lines in the Bible that could theoretically be interpreted to be referring to that story, but more than anything, it's just extrapolated out. But yeah, and the whole free will thing is that's a tough one. If you believe in God and you believe that God is all knowing, then God knows everything that you're going to do, every decision that you're going to make, which means all of your decisions are actually preordained. Um, because if they weren't, then it would be impossible for him to know them. And he created you knowing which decisions you were going to make. So he created you knowing how you were going to end up if he knows everything, right? If he's omniscient, then he created you knowing exactly what you're going to do in your life. Um, and then he either rewards you or punishes you for something that he knew you were going to do before he even created you, which is wild. Um, but yeah, so free will can't really exist with an omniscient God, not in any important sense anyway. But I know that's what he's getting into here. He's getting into, humans making the decision to accept or reject God, and that's free will, and that's the reason that humans exist. And I don't know. We're gonna see what all he gets into here, but I've got a feeling this is gonna be one of those where Ren and I disagree on a lot.
It's called bringer of light, Lucifer, morning star. Lucifer was the fairest and most intelligent of all the angels. He was the closest thing to God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt God was arrogant. In his frustration, Lucifer built a throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power, perhaps from loneliness.
Right. So, and there's the whole, he felt God was arrogant. Like, the 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 God of the Christian Bible I'll say that, um, is arrogant. Um, he insists that we worship him. Um, I mean, particularly in the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament, uh, depending on what religion you are, will determine what you call that. Um, he insists upon being revered and worshipped, which is a very narcissistic thing to do, especially when, you know, he insists upon it even in the face of no evidence. But anyway, so yeah, as is often the case when people talk about the evils of Lucifer, I end up siding with Lucifer because the way that they portray him is just tends to just be like someone who just doesn't agree with God. Um, anyway,
Heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power. Perhaps from loneliness, perhaps from curiosity, perhaps from a desire to share love, God began to work on his greatest project yet, a being that would mirror himself, the human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve. They were placed inside a paradise built for them on earth, the Garden of Eden. In the garden, God placed a tree that bared fruit that would grant anyone who ate it powers bestowed only to a God, to tell good from evil, left from right, to live righteously or to sin. He named this the Tree of Knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the Tree of Knowledge.
see, this is another wild thing. Like, the story goes that, or the mythos claims that God created humans, as was mentioned earlier, because he wanted a being that could choose to accept or reject him, right? But then he created Adam and Eve, who had no knowledge of good versus evil, so they couldn't really choose anything. Um, they had no morality. They couldn't make a choice until they made the choice to defy God, um, and eat from the tree of knowledge. But which once again goes back to God knew that they were going to do that, right? Because God's omniscient. So, and then God punished them for doing it by casting them out of the garden. He created you knowing that you were going to do certain things, and then he punished you for doing those things, even though he's the one who created you. It's wild. Anyway, continuing.
He named this the Tree of Knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the Tree of Knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death. The basic way the story of Eden is told is that Eve was tempted by Lucifer in the form of a serpent to eat a fruit from the Tree of Knowledge. Convinced, she bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same. Suddenly, ultimate knowledge.
Yeah, so that's another thing, is like, that is the way that the story is told, but that's not the way that the story unfolds in in the Pentateuch. It's in Genesis, the way that the story unfolds is it's just a snake. There's there's no indication that that snake is Lucifer or the devil, because the devil doesn't really appear in the Bible for the most part. Um, the devil is something that was extrapolated from the Bible, that existence. There is mention of the adversary, or the Satan, in the Bible, but it's always like the, and it's never kind of indicated that it's a fallen angel named Lucifer, who, we now think of as the devil with his cloven hooves and pitchfork, right? Anyway.
She bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same. Suddenly, ultimate knowledge filled their minds, and they realized they were naked and felt shame. God discovered this betrayal and felt angry. He exiled Adam and Eve and cursed them with the life of a mortal. They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deeper.
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
Wait a second. So now they're telling it from a different perspective. They're telling it from the perspective of Eve. This is interesting. You have my attention, Ren.
Ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
the only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen.
Not wrong. He said, "You will surely die." And the serpent said, "You shall not surely die." And they did not. It's weird. There seems to be some confusion, and I'm sure there are biblical scholars out there who could correct me on this, or who could give a little bit more context than what I can. But there seems to be this situation where Adam and Eve were supposedly, where they were immortal before they ate from the tree of knowledge, and then God condemned them to be mortal and to eventually die, and that could be the interpretation where God told the truth that they would die if they ate from that tree. But then also there's the tree of life, which God says in Genesis that we need to basically we need to kick Adam and Eve out of here before they eat from the tree of life, because then they'd be immortal and they'd be just like the gods. There isn't, by the way, there's an implied in the Bible that there's more than one God, all over the place. It's implied. But anyway.
In the Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge
may imply some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too. The fact that there stood a beautiful tree that could
grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to bite too.
In the Bible, Satan was an exiled angel of free will. Humans are exiled
descendants of Adam and Eve,
also with free will. Not only have we shared a similar fate to the devil, we were also both constructed in the image of our Creator.
Constructed in the image of our Creator,
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo His.
We could assume that this kind of
God.
We were created. That's an interesting interpretation there. If we were created in the image of God, then our actions must be a reflection of God. That's a way of thinking of it, as not just in the image as in the physical image, but in the mental image as well. That's interesting.
Constructed in the image of our Creator,
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo His.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts, but as the most
powerful
being in the universe,
He has no one above Him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
doubt but Himself. incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
Okay. So since we have doubts, it's logical to assume that God has doubts as well, since we were created in God's image. Interesting.
No one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
Doubt but himself, an incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer, and us is the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place?
Well, that's a good question. Why would we exist in the first place? That's I mean, from my perspective, there's I had to struggle as someone who deconverted from a religious upbringing. I had to struggle with the idea of the meaning of life, because part of what you're taught is that life has meaning, um, and you just need to find out what that meaning is. But what I've come to realize is that there is no meaning to life except what we give it. Anyway, this is interesting. It's
A desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place? The constantly looping bittersweet irony is whether gifted by some omnipotent God or simply a byproduct of billions of years of evolution, here we stand in 2023 as creatures with free will, the only creatures that understand and define good from bad, creatures with the potential of a God.
I don't know 100% if that's correct. Morality is emergent from natural forces, right? We we developed as a communal creature, as some creatures are, and you have to have some sense of morality or right and wrong, a way to make sure that you it keeps your society from falling apart. To have that sense of morality, you can definitely see a sense of morality in some wild animals as well, but anyway.
God. And what do we do with that free will, my friends? We willingly walk to the edge of a cliff. In the name of progress, we jump off the precipice. The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat. We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith
Mm-hmm. See, now he's talking a lot of, because what he's talking about now he's talking about morality, but he's talking about, although he called greed a sin, which is a religious term, although he used the word sin, it's also true that the things that he's talking about are secular morals as well, morals that are emergent from nature, as I was talking about a minute ago. You can't have somebody in a society where everybody has to work together to survive, a communal peoples or a communal creature like us. You can't have somebody who hoards more than they are than they need, or who uses more than they need, because that is a detriment to the rest of the group.
Kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians
and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and television sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War.
That's all pretty self-explanatory, and generally true. Yeah, generally true.
Vision sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War, famine, pestilence, greed, these aren't things imposed upon us by an all-powerful God or by his demonic adversary. They are here because of us, not because of free will, but because of our inability to use it. We must be motivated to be better, not out of fear of punishment of an eternal damnation, but because the choice exists, because we love ourselves, because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment. In this moment, how much suffering is happening all over the planet right now? How many people are dying of illnesses that could have easily been cured, but aren't because of the selfishness and greediness of humanity? How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary? How many children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of us become cogs inside a machine that is destroying itself? How many soldiers have been forced to fight in meaningless wars? How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man? And how much of this was avoidable? As written in the Bible, Satan was not condemned to hell. Satan was condemned to earth. He lives there amongst other creatures with free will, who always had the choice and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell.
That's it's not the first time that I've heard that. That feels, I'm pretty sure that's essentially a Buddhist philosophy that Earth existence is hell, because it necessitates suffering. But yeah. Anyway, very good. Very good. These are all facts, with the exception of the times that he's talking about things that happen in the Bible, or, you know, that sort of thing. With the exception of those, these are all facts. So.
Choice, and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell. The bittersweet irony is this is a creation of our own design. I'll leave you with this. Consider what you have done here today. You have worked together as individuals collaborating to form a giant neural network, a hive mind capable of achieving incredible things. We have lent on each other's strengths to solve puzzles and decipher riddles, and we've done so to win money. Imagine applying that same spirit and determination to creating the closest thing we have to paradise here on Earth. By using the power of collaboration, we can work together to even the playing field for everybody. Our dystopias can become utopias. Our Jahannams can become Jannah. Our hells can become heaven, right here on Earth. And this sentiment applies to atheists, agnostics, and believers alike. Myself, I'm an agnostic who believes. I believe in us. We must do better because we can choose to. We must be better simply because the option exists. Thank you.
Oh, that gave me chills. I'm an agnostic who believes in us. That's the closest to my belief system, in a succinct manner as I've heard most anyone say it. I believe in humanity. I believe in the goodness of people. I believe that the systems that we have designed and fallen into keep us from reaching our potential, hinder us. They don't keep us from it. It's still possible, but it takes work. I certainly could stand to put in more work myself. Thank you, Ren. That was beautiful. And thank you to everybody who recommended this one. I'm so grateful. Anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff below. You know how YouTube works. And until next time, y'all take care.